Don Quixote, Chapter 2, which treats of the first sally the ingenious Don Quixote made from home. These preparations being completed, he could wait no longer to put his design into execution with the least possible delay, for he was spurred on by the conviction that the world needed his immediate presence. So many were the grievances that required redressing, the wrongs that had to be righted, the abuses that demanded correction, and the debts that had to be paid. And so, without giving notice of his intention to anyone, and without being seen by a soul, one morning before the break of day, which was one of the hottest of the month of July, he armed himself at all points, mounted Rocinante, braced his buckler, took his lance, and by the back door of the yard sallied forth into the open country with great satisfaction and joy at seeing with what ease he had made a beginning with his virtuous design. But scarcely did he find himself upon the open plain, when a terrible thought struck him, one all but enough to make him abandon the enterprise at its very outset. It occurred to him that he had not been dubbed a knight, and that according to the law of chivalry, he neither could nor ought to bear arms against any knight, and that even if he had been, he ought, as a novice knight, to wear white armor without a device upon the shield until by his prowess he had won one. These reflections made him waver in his purpose, but his craze being stronger than any reasoning, he made up his mind to have himself dubbed a knight by the first person he met, as many others had done, according to what he had read in those books which had brought him to this pass. He traveled all that day, and as night fell, he and his hack were tired and dying of hunger. Looking about him on every side to see if he could discover some castle or shepherd's hut where he might find shelter and relief, he perceived not far from the road an inn, which to him seemed like a star guiding him to the portals, if not the palaces, of his redemption. He quickened his pace and reached it just as night was setting in. There happened to be standing at the door 2 young women, of the sort they call of the district, who were on their way to Seville with some carriers who had chanced to halt that night at the inn. Now, as everything our adventurer thought, saw, or imagined seemed to him to happen in the fashion of the books he had read, the moment he saw the inn, he convinced himself it was a castle with its 4 turrets and pinnacles of shining silver, complete with a drawbridge and a deep moat. To this inn, which to him seemed a castle, he advanced, and at a short distance from it he checked Rocinante, waiting for some dwarf to appear upon the battlements and sound a trumpet to announce the arrival of a knight. But seeing that they were slow about it, and that Rocinante was in a hurry to reach the stable, he went up to the inn door and perceived the 2 girls, who seemed to him to be 2 fair damsels or lovely ladies taking the air at the castle gate. At this moment, it so happened that a swineherd, who was going about collecting his hogs, blew a horn, and Don Quixote at once imagined it was some dwarf giving notice of his arrival. With prodigious satisfaction, therefore, he rode up to the ladies, who, seeing a man armed in that fashion with lance and buckler, were about to fly in fear. Don Quixote, however, sensing their fear, raised his cardboard visor and with a gentle air and voice addressed them. "Your ladyships need not fly, nor fear any rudeness, for the order of knighthood which I profess permits me not to offer such to any, much less to high-born maidens such as your appearance proclaims you to be." The girls looked at him and searched for his face, which the clumsy visor almost hid. But when they heard themselves called maidens, a thing so far from their profession, they could not restrain their laughter, which made Don Quixote take offense. "Modesty becomes the fair," he said, "and laughter that has no cause is great folly, but I do not say this to vex you, for my only desire is to serve you." The language, which they did not understand, and the uncouth appearance of our knight, only increased their laughter and his irritation, and it would have gone further had not the landlord come out at this moment. He was a man who, being very fat, was very peaceful. Seeing this grotesque figure, he was at first inclined to join the women in their laughter, but being afraid of the lance and buckler, he decided to speak him civilly. "Sir Knight," he said, "if your worship is looking for a lodging, save for a bed, for there is not one in the inn, you will find everything here in abundance." Don Quixote, observing the humility of the governor of the fortress, for so he took the innkeeper to be, replied, "For me, Sir Castellan, anything will suffice, for my only ornaments are arms and my only rest the battle." The host thought he had called him a Castellan, because he took him for a worthy Castilian, though he was actually an Andalusian and as great a thief as Cacus. He helped him to dismount, which was no easy task as the knight had not eaten all day. He then told the host to take special care of his steed, for it was the best bit of flesh that ever ate bread in the world. The host led the horse to the stable, and when he returned, the girls, who had by now made peace with Don Quixote, were helping him off with his armor. They managed to take off the breastplate and back piece, but they could by no means get him out of the helmet, which was tied with green ribbons that had to be cut. This he would not allow, so he remained all that night with his helmet on, the most droll and strange figure that can be imagined. As he was now at his ease, he imagined the girls to be ladies of the castle, and with great gallantry he began to recite verses to them. But since the ladies were not used to such rhetoric, they made no answer, but asked him if he would like anything to eat. "I would gladly take some food," said Don Quixote, "for I feel it would be very much to the purpose." It happened to be Friday, and there was nothing in the inn but some pieces of salt fish. They brought him a portion of it, ill-soaked and worse cooked, and a piece of bread as black and mouldy as his armor. It was a sight to see him eating, for having his helmet on and his visor up, he could put nothing into his mouth with his own hands. One of the ladies had to perform that office for him. But to give him anything to drink was impossible had not the landlord bored a reed, and putting one end in his mouth, poured the wine into the other. And all this he bore with patience rather than have the ribbons of his helmet cut.